Hi. Hi there. My name is Monica and welcome to Guru Grit. This week I'm doing an entire planetary series on YouTube, so welcome. If you'd like to know more about self-empowerment, astrology, pretty much just the way that the world works, because everybody deserves to know that if they're alive and breathing, then you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and medium.com, or just email me if you have questions. So speaking of which, I do have some good articles about the signs and things like that on Medium, so go read those. And go on my Instagram where I did do a planetary series, like a fun one, very relatable. I explained some things about the planets, so go and view them. They're all up now. So today we're talking about my favorite planet, which is Saturn. And I just couldn't wait another day to do it, so I just love Saturn, so I had to do Saturn. So we're going to discuss Saturn in astrology, which is pretty much the most misunderstood, hated, feared, all these wonderful things in a birth chart, and why you don't need to feel that way at all. So I'll give you some really good examples as to why. So let's get into it. What does Saturn rule? Saturn rules elders, anything old, and death. So because I only use the original 7 planets, to me, Saturn rules both Capricorn and Aquarius, and this makes perfect sense because Saturn rules karma, and Aquarius is a very karmic sign. So transits through Aquarius in a person's chart can bring about some types of karma that they're going to experience. So I really, really love Saturn, obviously. And Saturn rules Saturday. That's where we get Saturday from. His name is clearly in the day of the week. His colors, his planetary colors are dark blue, black, and I would even go so far as to say you can wear dark gray as well, because it's mostly black anyways. So Saturn's affiliation to things that are obviously unalive, so dead, so places like graveyards, crows, which are omens of death and things like that. Now, Saturn rules the masses, the 99%. So this is why I love him. I love him because he's relatable. He represents all that is, not just the select few, really. So things like your school bus driver, my mail lady, the teachers, the milkman, people who make textiles and clothes because they work with machines, people who sweep until their fingers blister. Without these people, we couldn't do anything. We couldn't do anything. I could not be sat on this bench if no one made it, and walk through this beautiful greenery if no one mowed this grass and maintained this beautiful nature here. I couldn't record because nobody made the parts for this camera. So Saturn is the everyman. He's the masses. And this is why he exalts in the sign of Libra, which is society. Because if you have a strong Saturn, you can have control over a lot of people, but in an ethical and just way. Saturn is the executor of universal law and justice. So he does not play games. So it doesn't matter if no one heard you gossip about your coworker to another coworker and you don't get caught in the human sense. The universe knows everything. You cannot cheat energy. So in this sense, he keeps you honest and accountable. So the more you work with him, the more he works for you. This is why Saturn returns can be really painful for some people, and then others don't even notice that it happened. So if you're constantly responsible, reflective, you are accountable, you set goals for yourself, and you say, okay, I'm turning 29, what am I doing with my life? I don't want to do this anymore, I want to do something else, and you get a plan, you put it into action, he's going to reward you because you're trying. Something like that. So that's kind of the energy that he gives off. It's a very responsible, dominant type. I had a music teacher growing up, a piano teacher, and he had a broken off, those yardsticks, like those wooden rulers. I don't know if they still use them. And this thing was down to a nub. It was like, compared to what it was, from him slamming on the chalkboard with the music on it, and for smacking the tops of pianos when people didn't listen. That reminds me of Saturn. But you know what I learned? Because I had no choice, because I was so scared of this man that when he was like whack, whack, whack on the piano and on the poor walls of the room, you learn. So Saturn is like that. He's just no nonsense, and he's straight up. And you'll see this a lot with Capricornian and Aquarian people. They could have social graces, like Capricorns are very graceful, very poised. very regal, and Aquariuses are a little bit cool, like they're cool. They might not tell you, but they don't miss a thing. They know what you're up to. They don't like pretense. They generally detest, you know, inauthenticity, fakeness, people who try too hard, anything ostentatious, anything really gauche. That does not vibe with Saturnian people. So that's what he is like. So how can you work with him? So I'll give you an analogy from my own life. I was not working. I had like negative $0, many negative $0, and I needed a winter coat, and I had in mind just the most perfect thing. I wanted a long, dark blue coat. Blue's my favorite color. It was dark blue. It was like super, you know, it was just a coat. Like it had a little tie thing. And I just thought to myself one day, I'm gonna find that coat for $100. I just thought it. And that week I went to the store and I just sort of stuck my arm in the rack and pulled it out. It was my size. It was $100, you know, before tax, and I was just shocked. It was so beautiful. I wore it for one winter. And in the interim, as I was putting it on one day, the inseam around my arm like ripped the inside. And then the following winter, I wore another coat, kind of just forgetting about it. And so I was cleaning up in the springtime, and I put the coat in the back of my car to go donate it. And I didn't do that for like 3 weeks, and I thought, do you know what? I would really love to wear that coat this autumn. I missed that coat and wear it for like a year. And I went and dug it out, donated the other stuff, but took the coat back to my room. And I was looking at it hanging up in my closet, and I thought, that was not a Saturnian thing to do. So what's a Saturnian thing to do? To donate something, if you can, especially to elderly people, that's dark blue on a Saturday. So this thing was obviously now older and kind of ragged in the inside. So I mended it, I sewed it, and made it beautiful and perfect again. It was kind of pilling. I made it clean and pristine, so whoever went on to own it would own something lovely. And then wait for sundown on a Saturday just before the charity shop closed, and I booked it, and I thought, this is for you. So I gave it away on a Saturday, dark blue piece of clothing. I put effort, because Saturn rules effort. I put effort. I showed that I cared about that thing in its lifetime with me, and now is reincarnating, very Saturnian, into its next life with someone else, and may have a beautiful time with them, right? So that's something Saturnian. Okay, so if you choose something that you can effort in, if you can involve the colors, the time of day, the day itself, but I mean, it doesn't have to be material, okay? Because Saturn appreciates effort, so you could choose to work on yourself. You can choose to work on your family. You can choose to do something for nature, wildlife, you know, feed black squirrels or something, okay? Something to that effect. So now Saturn as well. What can he do for you in terms of, let's say, like career? One of my favorite placements, not very popular, but that's all right, is Saturn in the first house, because I feel that the people are really photogenic. You know, very Saturnian people make excellent models for their bone structure for obvious reasons. And generally, Saturn in the first house can just make a person really alluring, because they're mysterious and deep, and they don't like, you know, they don't like that kind of like Gemini, Virgo, or like Leo energy that's like, ah, and so alive. And that's why they can just sort of magnetize people towards them, kind of like a Scorpio. And so when you have that in the first house, you can really attract a lot of people, which I find very funny, because it's sort of the top tier placement for a loner. Saturn rules solitude. He is someone who likes to be alone. Generally, these people are very content in their own company. And because of this, he aspects the 7th house from the 1st. So you could, even in a relationship, like time for yourself. So apart from the fact that I believe he can make you really attractive energetically or physically, you know, especially energetically, it always gives gravitas and a serious, responsible person, which is generally attractive because we like people who are in control of themselves and have composure. You know, I just think it's wonderful. So what it can do for career then is it can make a person want to work alone. If everything else is going well in your chart, you'll get someone who's self-employed or holds a high position, because people at the top don't have many equals. If not, then it's generally people who work jobs that you could describe as repetitive tasks, like, you know, sweeping, stirring, any type of machinery. Any type of machinery. So people who work as baristas, because they have the giant, you know, coffee machines, people in the textile industry, because they have those giant, I don't even know what they're called, looms or something like that, spools. I don't know. I'm not a fashion person like my sister. But mechanics even, okay? If there's some sort of aspect to Mars, which is like metals and really technical skill and logic, then you can get machinists, you can get people who work with, you know, pretty much anything that's metal on a mass scale, so in a factory, something like that. That's why I keep saying textiles, because they have giant machines, and what do they call the factories, what's it called, a thing called in a factory? Anyways, it's just, you know, very repetitive. It's just going, the assembly line, something on the assembly line, something like that. So you've got lots of options, okay? You could be someone who, you know, is a line cook, because you're just doing the same thing over and over, especially if Mars is there, that rules chefs anyways, etc. Now, if he's in really good condition, and this is the thing that's really important to understand for Saturn, because I mentioned you can be very successful. Because he rewards effort, and the magnitude of his influence is as such that it's so powerful. I want everybody to understand, everybody has Saturn somewhere, so stop stressing. Stop it. Everybody, you can do anything you want in this life. I think that your birth chart shows you how you do it, okay? It doesn't show you that you can't, like everybody can make money, it just shows you how you're gonna make money. The interesting thing about Saturn is if you want to do something on a grand scale, he is necessary for you. He makes big things happen. And everybody hits it big after they like struggle and toil for years, and they try and they know 100 ways something doesn't work. The one time they find one way that something works, bam, like that's Saturn. So, you know, you don't need 99 losing lottery tickets. It doesn't make you a lottery winner. You need one winning ticket one time. That's the kind of energy. You need to do one thing right in your life, and then Saturn will reward you in that sense. So after lots of effort, learning, and you know, success is easy and actually quite boring. Failure is fun. You learn a lot through failure. And when you understand that's a process of life, and you're no longer resisting it, and you're just kind of going with the flow, doing your best each step of the way, that's when Saturn comes in, and he's quite necessary to make something really profound happen. So this is why you'll see exalted Saturn in the charts of politicians. You know, Saturn in the charts of CEOs, of startup founders and things like that, because they're doing something on their own or something quite large, and they have control over others. One thing that I've noticed in the charts, especially of women, that end up being like supervisors, more than managers, like close to director or company owners, is so Capricorn ascendant, no sorry, Cancer ascendant, but Moon debilitated in the 7th house in a sign of Saturn. So they tend to be good at telling other people what to do. They make good bosses, you know, they're very direct, they're very focused, and Saturn rules focus. So you certainly need him, and you need to persist. He's the planet of endurance. So if you appease your Saturn, you find out where he is in your chart, you find out what he's working with, what you've got going on, you can do great things. So for example, if he's in the 3rd house, which is the house of motion, you think, oh my God, I'm never going to go anywhere, I'm never going to move, because it's a fast-moving house, and Saturn is just pushing it. But he aspects the 9th house by his 7th aspect. That's the house of publishing. And to write, you know, a large volume of work, like maybe a series of books, or to be good at academia and persist and endure that process, Saturn is really helping you here, because he's slowing that down. You know, if he's in the 5th house, kind of dampening it, it doesn't mean that you're never going to date or fall in love. It just means you're going to be serious about your choice. So let's discuss Saturn and spouses. What if Saturn's in the 7th house, influencing the 7th house? What if he's your spousal planet? So let's get the good news out of the way first. Everyone has a fascination with tall people. Saturn rules height. Okay, so he'll give a tall person. And it's very funny. And my mom is very, very Saturnian. She has 5 planets in Capricorn, and she was, you know, 5'9", 5'10" growing up. She played basketball, traveled all over the country. So that's like that's on brand. So you'll get a taller than average spouse, okay? Established, commitment focused. Saturn likes a return on his investment. So people with a 7th house influenced by Saturn, let's say they're Leo ascendant or Cancer ascendant, or Saturn sitting in the 7th house, aspecting the 7th house, the cusp, etc. You tend to attract people, but also want people who know what they want. Maybe dating endlessly just makes your stomach turn. It just turns your stomach. It's not fun. You want to know that if I'm going to spend 2 years with you, this is going somewhere. Like, what is this? And talking stages usually make these people heave because they don't find them fun. They think, what's the point? When am I going to get the time of my life back? Like, what is this even, So they're not tit for tat in that way, but in the grand scheme of things, they just think it's a waste of time on Earth, I suppose. So Saturn can also give, an older, biologically older spouse. So the last video I made, I said Mercury will give a younger spouse, Saturn an older. Sometimes you'll see an overlap. What if you have Mercury in Aquarius in the 7th house? Well, you really have to decide which way it's going to go. But Saturn will give a biologically older, a much more mature. Certainly 9 times out of 10, I will see the partner is more established than that person. Even if it's the chart of a man, he will attract a much more successful woman. Okay, if the Saturnian energy is very strong, you're looking at an age difference 7 years and up. Okay, it can be 7 years, 10, 11 years, something like that. Quite an age difference. And a spouse that's just generally interested in the technicalities, the logistics of a relationship. Who walked the dog? Is it going to rain? Should we park the car inside? Should we cancel the barbecue? Is there rain? Have a seating chart for everything. Just a very functional individual, I suppose. So you're looking forward to somebody who's really predictable, very stable, very, very stable. And a very stable marriage. It can be very long lasting as well. Okay, aspects can influence this, of course, but generally speaking, he doesn't cause things to break apart. So if you have a strong Saturnian influence for your future marriage, then that marriage is probably the only one you're ever going to have. Okay, I'm saying this generally, you have to see the whole chart, but generally, one's all you need. So Saturn's very good with that. He's very happy with that. A spouse who's interested in raising children who are like functioning adults in the world, very focused, are the clothes ironed? Did we, what's it called? Meal prep for the week? They're very on point. So they're people who don't tend to favor things like spontaneity, going with the flow. They like to know what's up. And they can be really materially focused. This is another one. You will get couples who are actually happy to build together. Saturn likes to build, so you'll get things like that. Now, if he's influenced by other things, you can get a combination of things. So one thing that I've seen really, really interesting is when he's influenced by Mars, you'll find a spouse, because Saturn rules like chronic things and he rules time, so long-term things. You'll get a spouse that's had a health issue for a long time. Maybe they've never checked their allergies, maybe they have back pain, tennis elbow or tech neck or something like that. Mars rules injuries, so what happens is either by the time you meet them, they would have injured themselves. Let's say like a skiing accident, okay, and I met someone who did have this, and they were telling me on my date that they had like nuts and bolts and things put into their kneecaps, and I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. Or they were born with a condition. Or sometimes when they were really young, like, sometimes babies, they catch a fever when they're very young, and then they lose their hearing, but they were born hearing. So you're looking at something that's already there. By the time you meet them, they would have sustained that injury or been born with XYZ condition. So that's another physical way that you can spot them right away. They generally tend to also have, a very serious appearance, and check their bone structures. Sometimes they're quite gaunt looking, like a Tim Burton character, and attractive in a very unconventional way, if they're not conventionally or classically attractive. So I hope this helps. I hope you've had fun. I've had fun making it. I can talk about the planets forever. So stay tuned, because I will make a course and I'll make a whole thing of articles on the planets. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for looking me up and for being here. I love each and every one of you, and I wish you a very beautiful rest of the week. Bye-bye.